To learn today from you. We'll try and keep this session as interactive as possible. That's what Mr. Narayan suggested. But I've come with a list of questions for you. Check your mic. Okay. So all of us know Mr. Narayan is the Global Director at Microsoft Startup Growth Partners. We will talk more about what Microsoft, or what is their role at Microsoft and what does this program do for entrepreneurs. But before that, Raviji, I would love to know how you started your entrepreneurial journey, where you started, and if you could talk about that a little bit.
Great. Thank you very much for coming on a Thursday evening to listen to somebody that you probably have known of, but not met really, so don't know the level of connectedness that we can bring to you. So I actually studied for a little bit in Ambala. So I went to Central School, Kendriya Vidyalaya number 1, Patel Park.
They don't call it Kendriya Vidyalaya now, they say Kenwits.
Kenwits.
Like that. So, you know, the reason I was here was my father used to work for the government, central government. So we used to get transferred quite a bit, and Kendriya Vidyalaya was the way to do it. So when I was watching him, you know, kind of being pushed around and, you know, sent to places, even though he had a lot to offer, his destiny was not in his hands. I decided that, you know, I'm going to do something differently and do something of my own. And as soon as I graduated from the 12th year, I went to IIT Madras, and then thereafter went to the US. You know, it's like most of us did at that time. And very soon after I finished my US, after my bachelor's, my master's, I started my first company. So, you know, usually the people in the US have this issue about green card, and you need to work with someone for a while. So I kind of had a jugaad of my own and decided to do my first company in the US. And this was to build software for the central government, for the federal government of the US. And so did that company for about a year and a half, and I sold that company in Washington DC area. Because there were lots of people like Infosys and Wipro that were doing it for the commercial segment, not for the government segment. So that's what I decided. And then people caught on to it. Of course, there were other people with much more money than I did. So they decided to buy me out, and then I decided to get a little bit more clued into the technology industry, work in the technology industry for a little while. And then I did my second startup in the US, which was in the voice over IP space. And so built that company very quickly. Within about a year and a half, raised close to about $50 million. And then suddenly the entire telecom industry melted down. And that was one of the, you know, very, very tough times for us. So it was not just the fact that the investors stopped putting money in this, the customers were not there, and we had to make some very hard choices. But the good news is we were able to put the company back on track in a different way, of course. Pivoted substantially, and again went back and built the company back to selling to Docomo and Verizon, Sprint, in India, BSNL, Reliance. So we sold our products to these companies, and then finally I sold it again, sold my second startup in 2008. By that time I was already in India. I decided I would do my third startup in India. And India was a very big shock for me, because I thought I had, you know, if I had grown up here, studied here, you know, close I can figure this out. But it was very different and very difficult for me to build my third startup. So basically, I thought since I'd done two startups, maybe I should just get a running start. Why should I just start all over again from an idea and, you know, build a prototype and raise some money and do all that? So I raised money immediately to buy another company. So I said, let me just get the technology from someone else. And interestingly, I bought a company in Silicon Valley and bought the entire hardware and software to India and to Bangalore. And that's how I did my third startup. So it was an interesting, I was in a hurry, and I was also wanting to do this in India and show to people that this can be done in India. And what happened was, while the VCs that gave me the money were quite supportive when I was having all these ambitious plans and buying this company in Silicon Valley, all that was okay. What they and I did not discuss was what will we do beyond that. There was an expectation amongst these investors that you actually will go and bid for this very large contracts from BSNL and MTNL, and you will get all these 100 crore contracts and 200 crore contracts. That's the way they thought. पैसे दे दिए हैं अभी. You have bought the dabbas and everything else from the US. You brought them to the US, to Bangalore. Now just sell like crazy. That's the business model that they had in their mind. When I told them that, I still need about 3 to 4 crores every year to continue to keep the technology updated, because I'm not selling only to, one customer, I'm selling it to several customers, and every customer has a different network. They have a different technology, they have different standards. I need to keep on going. Even if I am selling pretty much the same technology, the way it is going to stay current is by putting in at least $1 million a year. Otherwise, this technology will get obsoleted very quickly. They didn't understand that. In fact, that was the way I unearthed the fact that people don't understand technology products at all. They are very good at services, and they have perfected it. 10 years ago, they were really the kings. We had a lot of people who were coming out of the Infosys and the Wipros and Cognizants and everybody, and they were building their own companies. But they were all in the services space. So to build a product company requires a completely different set of skills. And that was where, I found that there was a big vacuum in Bangalore. Starting with Bangalore, if it's in Bangalore, I'm sure it's in every part of India. So then that was my opportunity to do my fourth startup, which actually turned out to be a micro VC. We call them micro VCs now, or venture capitalists. So we used to put in money, but the bigger value that we provided them was mentoring. Not just mentoring, because what does Ravi know, right? Ravi has experiences in the US, has connections in the US. No, it's not me alone. It is me and my entire network. And how do I bring that to the table? How do I create a continuity for the startup that I am actually taking under my wings? So once he is part of the mentor, we call it mentor partners, you actually become part of the network. You're not part of just me being your mentor. And that was an important piece that was missing. So we invested in about 12 companies, and we have exited pretty much all of them since then. So we did quite well, given that it was the very early days for building products in India. So since that same product methodology or passion that I've had, I ran the NASCOM Product Conclave, I did the TiE Entrepreneurial Summit in Bangalore way back in 2008. So all of these are about creating that intellectual property based companies out of India. So that's the journey I have been now for quite some years. So while I was doing that, Microsoft said, we need you to do the same thing for us on a global basis. And anyway, you have sold 10 of your companies, 2 companies, that you can do on a part-time basis. But come work for us and help us build this thing called Microsoft for Startups. And Microsoft Ventures, as it was called. And then we split it across to 2 different things. One is called Microsoft for Startups, and that's what I head. And there's Microsoft Ventures, which is a funding arm which does only funding, Microsoft for Startups is mostly about helping startups grow. And I think it's an interesting distinction that we make. So if you're putting money, and you're putting money only for the fact that you will help the company grow from a financial standpoint, that is one way of looking at things, you know. But if you're looking at a startup just by saying, can I actually help this company without money and help it grow to the largest possible extent, that's a different kind of a mindset. So we do everything in terms of, we give them, access to customers worldwide. We give them technology scaling. We give them mentors across, mentors as general mentors, specialized mentors. We do everything that is necessary to grow these companies, right? So that's the way we are looking to build these startups. And today, the part that I manage, that is been around in India for about 5 years. We are known as the top, ecosystem player, startup ecosystem player in this country. And we have about 150 startups in that portfolio in India alone. In the global portfolio, it's about 800 startups. So we manage that thing. So that's kind of been my journey. So I've been an entrepreneur, I've been an investor, and now I sit in the middle of two very interesting ecosystems. One is the startup ecosystem, which I know and I enjoy and I've been a part of. And now I'm beginning to learn the other ecosystem, which is a corporate giant like Microsoft. And I find that is the harder one to manage than the startups. I can do a lot more with startups and VCs and mentors and people who are passionate about startups much more than I can do. So the challenge for me is today, how do I teach a giant like Microsoft to get more innovative and more nimble and agile by assimilating innovations from startups. That's my charter within Microsoft, and I think that's an interesting challenge to take on. These days,